Howdy gangsters. So I'm going to talk now about emotional eating or stress eating. The two things are pretty much the same. So ultimately, what people often do is they focus on the symptom, i.e. eating too much chocolate, drinking too much wine, whatever it might be, whatever their kind of go-to vice is, and not realising there's a cause for that symptom. Now, to expect there to be no stress in life is unrealistic and will almost certainly cause you to be stressed when you encounter stress. Firstly, I think we've got to expect and understand that we will occur, stressful situations will occur, we will have uncomfortable things to deal with. It's going to happen. Understanding that is very important, because then you're not living in a state of denial and you're not derailed as soon as you get a bad situation. You're thinking, I'm straight in the hobnobs to deal with it. And why do people deal with that? This is what I was talking about, this symptom. They just think, oh, I'm eating too much chocolate. But if it is a behavioural pattern that you get stressed and you go to X, Y or Z, so in this case, let's say junk food, usually sugary food, the primary reason, although there's lots, is whether you know it or not, certain foods will cause you to have an endorphin release, serotonin release, but also they can dampen down the effects of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. So if you think to a time in your life when you were extremely stressed and felt bad, your cortisol levels will have been through the roof. Now, depending on who you are, who you surround yourself with, what your situation is, etc., you will have found ways to deal with that stress, to mitigate the stress. Me personally, when I've been extremely stressed in the past, different situations, I've often used exercise. I didn't even know I was doing it, but I used exercise as a coping mechanism. Now, a lot of people, especially in our society and Western culture, we use food, which we tend to get quite embarrassed about, so don't really admit it and often do kind of secret eating and whatnot. Or we use alcohol. It's quite an accepted norm that most people in Western culture drink too much. And then there's other ones that you wouldn't necessarily think of, like caffeine, like coffee, again, because it's very accepted and it's almost seen as cool nowadays to drink coffee. But there's lots of different things that you might use to dampen down cortisol without even knowing it. And the food or the drink, whatever it is, gives you something that you feel that you can't give yourself. And it gives you short-term happiness. It's a release. It's like if you're boiling your pasta and the lid's on and those bubbles are coming up, it's you taking the top off so it doesn't boil over. Now, none of these things are good, but also there's different levels of severity. If you have a well-functioning life in most areas, and then you find that your go-to is, let's say, eating too much chocolate or eating chocolate when you're trying to give it up for whatever reason, it's not necessarily the end of the world, but you've got to understand where it comes from. I said this at the start of the video. In so many problems that we have, we end up trying to treat the symptom and not dealing with the cause. And when you do that, you'll almost certainly just end up in a cycle of kind of chasing your tail. And what happens when you do that and you don't treat a cause is it will damage your self-esteem, because 9 times out of 10 people think, I've got to give up, let's say chocolate, let's just use chocolate. Firstly, just rabbit hole, sugar is probably the most addictive thing that you can, that you will experience in your lifetime. Now, some people say, and I can't speak from experience on this, but hard drugs. But apparently it's been proven, and a lot of food companies who fill their food with sugar wanted to keep this quiet, but sugar is more addictive than anything else, more addictive than heroin, than crack, than cocaine, than marijuana, whatever your thing is. Apparently sugar is more addictive than any of those. So trying to just give up sugar, I think, is almost certainly you will fail in that. Which again, this is where I came to the self-esteem thing. So you set yourself up for a fall, and then you get back on that cycle of being emotional and being stressed. I've failed, I'm stressed about it, I can't sort my shit out. And then 9 times out of 10, you go back to the vice that you were trying to get away from, because it's an emotional response, emotional response to a stressful situation, i.e. having your self-esteem damaged by the fact you don't have a good understanding on what you're up against. It's kind of like, if, like I said about the symptom, if you understand there's a cause, firstly, and it's not necessarily the food that's the problem, it's the fact that you haven't identified that you need to deal with the cause, or you feel you can't deal with the cause. And then what we do is we tend to bury our head in the sand and then emotionally eat our way through it, and then we reap what we sow in terms of weight gain, loss of fitness, loss of routine, avoiding certain situations and subjects, and that's where the self-esteem damage comes in. So there's things with each vice. Let's say caffeine makes you feel good, it gives you energy, that's undoubtable. We all feel great when we've got that energy hit from caffeine, and in moderation, it's actually a good thing. Caffeine, let's just talk about this now. Coffee is proven without doubt to improve performance, physical performance. It's not if, it's an absolute certainty. It's been massively researched for decades now, the effects of caffeine and different parts of the human body and the mind. It makes you more alert, it makes you feel better, it makes you able to tolerate pain to a higher level, it makes your focus more intense. All of these things are great, and you absolutely must understand that, like so many things in life, like sugar, in moderation, used properly, it can actually be very beneficial to you, your training, your life, and I don't think it needs to be eradicated, and I don't think it is particularly helpful. It might be helpful if you feel you cannot moderate it, but again, that's a different discussion. But ultimately, caffeine is not a bad thing. Coffee is not a bad thing. Moderating it well is massively powerful, and then you can harness the power of caffeine, if you like. Same with, to a certain extent, sugar, with chocolate, with a lot of things. If you want to cut them out for whatever reason that means something to you intrinsically, cool, go ahead. But understand that if you like it, and let's be honest, you do like it, or you wouldn't indulge in it, that'd be extremely hard. So what I would say is moderate it over give it up. And also educate yourself around. The other day someone said to me, oh, I gave up sugar whilst pouring milk into their coffee. And I was like, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to kind of piss on his parade, but you haven't given up sugar. It's like saying I don't eat carbs. Well, anything that is a vegetable is a carbohydrate. What he meant is starches. The same guy told me about he'd given up carbs, but he'd given up starches. But also he hadn't actually given them up, he just cut them down. That's irrelevant. But my point being is understand that when you've got a vice or a go-to behaviour, there is a reason for that. You need to dig into what that reason is. One with coffee, going back to this, is 9 times out of 10 you're lacking energy because you're not hydrated and you're not eating properly. And what makes you feel better instantly is coffee, because it gives you a perk up, it gives you a lift, and psychologically it feels really good. I feel happier when I drink coffee. I know I do. Do I feel I need to give up coffee? No. Do I plan on it? No. I need to moderate it better. You possibly do too. But understand it's not all bad. It's like cheese. The other day someone was talking to me about cheese. Cheese is not bad. Cheese has many beneficial qualities. It's fairly high in protein. It's massively high in magnesium. It contains zinc. It's got lots of beneficial qualities. And again, just eradicating it just because someone said you should is not necessarily a good thing. It's not necessary. I don't think. Whether you want to or not, cool. Oh, I don't like dairy, I'm intolerant. Okay, cool, don't eat cheese. But understanding that trying to just blanket certain things as good and bad is never going to help you. And it's never, because ultimately you're reading the map upside down. You're never going to get to your destination because you're not looking at it properly. So with emotional eating and stress eating, understand that stress is going to happen. So what do we need to do? Accept that it's going to happen. That sounds negative, but it's just the truth. It's like certain things you've got to accept. Like, let's say as you get older, you'll go through physiological changes, psychological changes. These are not bad things. These are natural things. And trying to deny them and filling yourself full of Botox and dyeing your hair and whatnot isn't going to change it. So what I'm saying to you is stress is going to happen. Be okay with that. Now, high levels of stress will cause high levels of cortisol release. Now, the more stressed you are, the more you're going to want to go to your vices. Again, it's human behavior. It's like if you're stuck out in the rain, you want to get under shelter. And again, that's not a bad thing. It's understand that if it happens, identify that it is happened, try and treat the cause, the root of that stress. And if you can't do anything about it, understand that you can't do anything about it and be okay with that. As weird as that sounds, you've got to control what you can control, and the things you can't control, you need to try and let go. There's a lot of uncertainty, especially at the moment in the world. And if you, like most of the population, are constantly kind of second guessing and thinking about what comes next, I've done it myself. You wrap yourself up in knots and you're increasing your anxiety levels. Cortisol releases, you crave your vices. It's kind of just the way it goes. Now, some people more than others. Some people, and this can go right back to childhood, and even before that, genetics, some of it. Again, there's different theories around that. But you need to understand that these things are real, they can affect you, and you can, through your behaviour and through your thoughts and through your discipline and structure in your life, you can affect how much they affect you. So let's look at sugar. Sugar picks you up. Very similar with caffeine. They both pick you up instantly. 9 times out of 10, they taste great, so we want them anyway. They're very convenient, so we want it anyway. And let's just use this as an example. I used to work with a lady who was extremely fit, used to run half marathons on the treadmill pretty much every day. Why? Who knows? Anyway, she hospitalised herself through surviving literally on sugary drinks, like say Lucozade or whatever, and would eat 6 grapes a day. Now, anyone with an IQ above about 10 is going to know that's very, very bad for you. This woman hospitalised herself through that. You can survive on sugar alone for quite a long time. Obviously, it will damage your body massively. Does that mean you need to eradicate sugar from your diet? No. But it will always make you feel better instantly. Whatever your situation, whether you're feeling great, you'll feel better. Whether you're feeling awful, you'll feel slightly better. It's massively powerful, and your mind, the connection between sugar and feeling good is there from a very young age. Even in terms of what we're taught, like habitually, it's like you're good at school or whatever, we're good at home, and can I have a treat? And it's usually 9 times out of 10 something to do with food for a lot of people, and then those precedents get set, and then we kind of just accept them as norm as we get older. But why do people find that? It is convenience, it feels good, it's giving you something psychologically that you're not getting, and then also it can cover up all the mistakes you're making with your nutrition, with consistency, with understanding macros, understanding how much protein you need. This is another one. If you're hungry, what do you always want? You want sugar. You want sugar and you want fat. Now, a lot of people undereat. For those of you who track macros, you'll understand now it's actually quite difficult for most people to ingest enough protein daily to sustain themselves to the level they need to be to physically progress to the best of their ability. Now, if you're not getting organised, you're not eating enough, you will crave sugar even more. If you're busy, you will crave sugar more. If you're stressed, you will crave it more. And the longer you do it, the harder it is to break those patterns. So that's a practical side of things where you can help yourself out by getting organised, making sure you understand what macros are, how to hit them well, and then also when you're doing planning your diet, planning what you're eating, understanding that if you don't eat enough, that you will crave sugar more, you will crave caffeine more, you will feel like working out less. Again, these are all parts of the puzzle. You can't just take little bits. You've got to see the whole picture. So when we're talking about emotional eating, that's an organisation thing that can actually help prevent. There's nothing to do with your emotion. That's just organisation and discipline. Whereas when that stress happens, you've got some structure in place to counteract it. Let's look at it like this, real blatant example. You get in from work, you've had a shit day, and you haven't got any food in the house or any proper food, or you haven't prepared anything. You're going to go straight for something that's quick and easy, and that will usually be something sugary. Not always, but again, you're stressed out. You're working at your computer. You're there. You can't sit down and eat a chicken pasta salad, but you can easily have a chocolate bar and a coffee. Again, that's just understanding yourself, knowing that you need to improve your lifestyle, improve your structure. It happens. But the emotional side of things, ultimately, what you're getting from whatever your vice is subduing and dampening down the cortisol that's in your brain. That's what, like I said, I said this at the start of the video, and I'll wrap it up with this. If you think of a time when you were incredibly stressed, you almost certainly, if I gave you some bad news now, your mind would probably think subconsciously, not even a conscious thought, how can I make this slightly less painful? And for most people, that comes in the form of comfort eating or vices, and the two are kind of the same. So comfort eating makes us feel better, gives us a release, a bit of escapism. Endorphins go off. Same with a vice. Shit day, crack open the wine, before you know it, you're 3 glasses in, but you don't feel as bad. And then your brain remembers, do you know what, last time we were under a lot of stress and you felt bad, that's how we got through it. There is always other ways, and as we try and help you with and advocate, obviously exercise being top of the list, but that then has a lot of knock-on effects, the ripple effect throughout your day and how you handle your emotions and how you become mentally more resilient. There's lots of different things, but ultimately, if you want to stay away from a certain thing, you need a plan in place of how you're going to do it. You can't just hope it will happen. Structure and organisation is massive. Understanding that stress happens, you can deal with it. How often have you said this, or have you heard people, I just can't deal with this, I just can't deal with this. But ultimately, they do deal with it. They feel like in the moment they can't, whatever that thing is. And really, really bad problems cause massive effect, negative effect. But ultimately, they need to be addressed, whatever it is. And sometimes, you just got to get through a certain situation, but then identify if you've got a coping mechanism which is not serving you well, that's what you need to look at. It's not necessarily the fact you just can't stop eating chocolate. There's something that's causing it. So think deeply when you're identifying your habits, what you do and don't do, what you want to change, what you don't want to change, etc. Understand that for every symptom, there's a cause, and it's the cause that needs to be addressed more than the symptom. I hope that makes sense, guys. If you've got any questions, let me know. Talk to you soon.